Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this first of hopefully a series of webinars for as long as it takes for us to get through this situation that we are in. My name is Tom. I'm from the Prairie District Chamber of Commerce, and the Chamber is so pleased to be working with the City of Grande Prairie and the County of Grande Prairie economic development departments. We're working as a business resiliency task force and trying to supply information that is important to business and trying to collect questions and information from business people and try and provide them some answers and some direction as we go through this. We are pleased today to be joined by Holly Sorgen, Executive Director of Community Futures Grande Prairie and Region. And Holly will be providing a lot of information today, what she's seen, what she's heard, and what she's gleaned from various sources. And we will be recording this webinar so that we can do some follow-up with folks. We do ask you to keep your lines muted. I think Hetty also has that ability to do that, but it just keeps a lot of the background noise out of this. We will have a Q&A at the end, so you can use the chat function to either type your question, or you can type pick me or something like that if you would like to ask the question yourself, and then we'll unmute your mic and allow you to do that. If I forget to say it at the end, you can refer to our chamber website to submit feedback as to what topics you would like to see covered in the future, and also just anything you're seeing out there business-wise and questions-wise. And I know it's a tough time, and I know it's a difficult time, and we're all trying to find answers and trying to provide as much information as we can. It's changing on a daily basis, if not an hourly basis, and we appreciate and understand what folks are going through, and as we said, we are all in this together, and we are a strong region. We are a strong community and a lot of wonderful, wonderful people in this area, and we can do this, and we need to do it together. So with that, we will introduce Holly, if you'd like to just give us a little background, and then we'll jump right into this.
Sure. Thanks, Tom, and welcome everybody, and thank you for taking time out of your day. I'm Holly Sorgen. I'm the Executive Director for Community Futures Grande Prairie and Region, and I also own my own small business, business consulting, coaching, facilitation, and strategic planning. And I'm looking forward to talking a little bit about business and the business environment and the impacts of what we're experiencing right now, specifically the COVID virus, but also some of the other things that are making this a bit of a perfect storm for us. And then talking about some of the services that are available to you that you may not be completely aware of, and some resources to help you through all of that, and hopefully a little bit of time for question and answer as well.
All right, so let's start by asking you, Holly, what are you hearing from businesses about the current state of affairs?
That's a big question, but yeah, you know, and it's interesting because I guess it's been my experience that entrepreneurs are the ones that pivot fairly quickly, and I've really seen that over the last couple of weeks, where I was having conversations with entrepreneurs and business owners last Monday, really going, oh my God, what are we going to do? What is this? Am I going to have to close? You know, there was a lot of real anxiety, lots of fear, lots of the unknown, lots of crisis. And I'm not saying that that's went away, but what I really started to see over the last 2 weeks is just this kind of okay, so if this is what the reality is at this moment, what is it that I can do as a business person to accommodate that new reality for now? This isn't hopefully our new normal, but it's the reality right now. So what I'm hearing from a lot of businesses, nonprofits, and organizations that I've been working with is it's a time that they are pivoting really, really quickly. They're in problem solving mode, they're in solution focused mode, and they're really starting to be innovative. And I'm sure for everyone who's on the call, you've really seen some examples of that. If you're on social media at all, you're seeing how people are getting so much more adept at that. But at the end of the day, I think what seems to be a resounding theme for me, for the businesses that I work with and the businesses and organizations that I kind of do strat planning with on a regular basis, is just this overall feeling of powerlessness. And that's probably the hardest thing for most entrepreneurs and nonprofit leaders to experience, because we're used to being problem solvers. We're used to being able to say, oh, well, this is the problem. This is how I'm going to get around it, over it, under it. And I'm feeling the exact same way, because I'm used to being able to say, oh, I had a client who experienced that, and here's what they did, or here's some of the solutions and resources that I can bring to you. So there's this kind of feeling of, I have a lack of control. And for a lot of businesses, that's really hard, because the reason we go into business and the reason that we do the things we do is to kind of have some control over some of the things that we can influence. So, but there's this, I think inherently when you work with entrepreneurs, there's always a sense of hope. So it's, if it's not this, then it's this. And if it's not that, then it's this. And that's what I have to say. I have to applaud every person that I've talked to in the last little bit. It's not about giving up and closing and all of that sort of stuff. Even if people are having to close, they're already thinking about how they're going to open and what they're going to do differently, and how they're going to, not only react to this, but grow from it.
Let's maybe let's get into some of the supports that are available out there. I'm not sure where you want to start with that, but and I know there were some more announcements, key announcements this morning, which it's good timing with this one, yeah. So maybe I'll just let you go into some of the supports that are available. And again, this is something that seems to be changing on a daily basis, but at least we can start that conversation and give people some idea.
Yeah, and I mean, the fact that it's changing on a daily basis is a good thing. It means that all the different levels of government are definitely working in our court, and they're listening. They're listening to advocates like the Chamber of Commerce, working up with the Provincial Chamber and the Canadian Chamber, and like CFIB and Better Business Bureau and our municipalities. Like the fact that we are getting new announcements almost on a daily basis is a little bit scary, because we're trying to manage through all the information. But at least we know they're listening and they're trying to be proactive. So what I thought I might do is just kind of go through and talk about some of the municipal supports, or just support in general. Look at the provincial and federal, which I think are most impactful and probably go across the board for most. And then just some of the ideas around dealing with the private side of things, because most of us as entrepreneurs also have landlords. We also have suppliers, and we have terms of payment for a lot of that stuff as well. So that's kind of how I'll go. I will tell you right now, I don't know everything. Wouldn't it be great if we did? And I know that there's people on this call that probably know more than I do in certain areas. So, but that's what this is all about today, is sharing what I know, sharing what we have so far, and then opening up the opportunities for us to delve into some of that stuff in more detail. And probably where I'm like a little bit weaker is on each municipality, because they are a little bit different in how they're dealing with stuff. But my applauds to the city, the county, and the chamber for putting together this task force. I think that really shows that there's this dynamic group of people that are working on our behalf, and I appreciate that. So starting from a municipal perspective, as a business owner, some of the things that have been announced, obviously I was just speaking about the Business Resiliency Task Force through our municipalities and the chamber. There's some flexibility on our Aquaterra bills, free transit. I know the city also moved their property tax deadline to August from June. And obviously, I mean, at any point when we're talking about deferrals, is really understanding as a business person, if we're pursuing deferrals, to really understand what the terms of that deferral is, what that impact might be on a longer term, just to make sure that you're actually making the best decision for your business. Because sometimes deferrals can mean that you have a balloon payment at the end, so making sure that you're going to be able to have the wherewithal to do that. Sometimes deferrals mean just kind of pushing things on and then adding on a repayment schedule. So it's really important that we as business owners kind of ask good questions as well, and you know, make sure that we get the right answers. From a provincial perspective, again, as a business owner, one of the things we're trying to figure out is how do we keep the doors open? How do we keep the lights and the heat on? Because apparently spring has decided it doesn't want to come yet either. So there is the 90-day deferral of electrical and natural gas bills. But this doesn't all happen automatically. So again, as a business owner, you'd have to contact your utility provider, because there's several in Alberta, and make sure that you've made those arrangements, and also again, understand what your payment terms are. As the Crown Corporation for the provincial government, ATB Financial is going to be very involved in assisting businesses for sure. The government has said that there's an availability for a 6-month deferral on ATB lines of credit, loans, and mortgages. There's going to be some additional access to working capital. And again, those aren't blanket. Those are things that you actually do have to contact a relationship manager or a small business loans manager or a commercial lender to help you through that stuff and to make sure you're making the best decisions. And quite honestly, with the Bank of Canada having reduced their interest rate to pretty much nothing, you probably can access some fairly good lending at this point if you're at a place where you actually can pivot a little bit and look at assets and stuff like that. Some businesses are actually there right now, and they're getting some very, very favorable information back from their banks as to how they can support them and asset and that sort of stuff. The provincial government also has access to their emergency supports benefit, which may not necessarily be applicable in this case for an entrepreneur unless you are currently ill or you're self-quarantining or you're self-isolating with no income. The energy support is basically a bridge to the federal supports that are coming, and it's a $1,146 for that bridge. The province also froze the residential education property tax at 2019 rates. So for those of us who own properties, that can impact what that looks like. And hopefully that'll trickle down, if there is a savings there, to our businesses who are currently leasing from a landlord, and hopefully that there's some room, a wiggle room there as well. And the last thing from the province is that WCB premiums have been deferred till early 2021, which is an immediate savings right now. So it's not a whole bunch of money that you have to put out, especially if you have high premiums. But again, if it's deferred or whatever, just making sure that cash flows will be able to support it at some point. Federal government, this is where we had some big changes this morning, positive, I think, and that really does show that the federal government is listening to different levels of government, also to our advocates and different business organizations. So number one, for those of us who are entrepreneurs and our sole income is entrepreneurship, we are maybe the owner operator, or maybe have a very small business and only have a couple of staff. And we've either been forced to close our doors, or we've had a drastic change in our cash flow, or little to no cash flow. The benefit that I'm most excited about, and I'm hoping will hopefully have some more added to it, is the Canada Emergency Benefit Fund. And that's $2,000 per month for 4 months so far. The application process is coming in early April, so it'll take a little bit for all that to come into place, because it had to be approved as a budget item, or as the special House, when the House of Commons got back together. So it's part of that package. But what this does, and I say this facetiously, but it's actually pretty important, is if we've been able to deal with some of the other fixed costs of our business, and we're able to say, okay, I'm not feeling like I'm out of breath all the time, $2,000 for a self-employed individual, it could actually be more money than you've taken home from your business in a long time, because you're constantly reinvesting into the business. So the business might be paying some of your expenses, but this is actual cash. So I'm glad to see that the federal government has come out with something like that. And maybe we'll see more, I hope. For those employers who are currently still employing people, and we appreciate you and thank you, the Workshare program was actually developed quite a few years ago, I think, but prior to 2008, 2009, but it was really used then when we had the downturn then. And the Workshare program is, they've actually extended it from 38 weeks to 76 weeks. And it's kind of a top up. So it's being able to keep people employed where they may be sharing a position, so working different hours or less hours, but the EI system would actually top up their wage so that they were making comparable to what they were making before, and you can keep them on the payroll and keep them as part of your business when you ramp up again. So the Workshare program, I know a lot of companies have actually accessed it. They did waive a waiting period, which in government talk actually means probably takes about 10 days because they've been fairly inundated with applications. There is some paperwork that's involved with that. And you do have to ensure that the positions that you're looking at doing a Workshare with are fairly comparable. So that's beneficial to us who want to keep our employees going. In terms of other stuff that's available, wage subsidies. So again, for employers who have people employed, I've heard from lots of businesses who are really scared because they have to lay off people or they're contemplating having to lay off people. Physical distancing really does mean, you know, we shouldn't be seeing a lot of customers and businesses, but what that also means is, can we actually stay open? Do we still have the cash flow and the customers to justify us being open? And lots of businesses, especially in the service sector, have closed. So that's a little bit harder. What the Prime Minister was talking about this morning is in addition to the 10% wage subsidy that they were offering before, and it's a 75% wage subsidy, which sounds amazing. And I'm like, oh, yay. But we don't know what the details are. It probably gets announced on Monday. But this could be amazing for businesses who are wanting to keep people on staff, especially for ones that are more specialty skilled and who would be adversely affected by going on EI, because EI still at the end of the day is about $2,000 a month at a maximum. So this would be a way of keeping an employee on. We're still trying to figure out, and I've been talking to lots of businesses going, okay, so, but if we're not really busy, like, how does that work? Do I give them a flat salary and then we use that number moving forward for the wage subsidy? Because the way the 10% was working was it would be as a portion of what was remitted to the government based on each employee and what was being remitted. And then you could hold what was being remitted, 10% of that. And so if that's the same case, obviously those numbers are going to change, the maximums are going to change. But it really does come down to, okay, so how do I keep them? Do I have to have them busy? Can they be at home and I pay them and then I get my subsidy? So it's really, it's still going to be a little bit of a dance for employers to kind of figure out what the best way is for them. And what I also heard the Prime Minister say was, and maybe this is an opportunity for you to hire them back. And that could be part of, you know, let's take some of the pressure off the EI system, which is totally oversubscribed right now. We had like 500,000 people apply for EI in one day last week. And we're starting to see thousands of layoffs from different companies in the private sector. So they're probably trying to juggle around because there's only so much public service to be able to do all the applications. And what is kind of also exciting about the wage subsidies was that nonprofit organizations were eligible for that first 10%. So for us as nonprofits, Community Futures and other organizations, some of the charitable organizations that do such an amazing job of serving the social services side of what we do, this can be game changing for them, because for us, it's even a little bit of a savings. At 75%, I know I can keep all of my staff employed throughout the downturn. And hopefully for a lot of other nonprofits, they can do the same because they provide this kind of critical service. And unfortunately, many of them have had to cancel fundraisers that are major for them, or a lot of the programming that they get fee for service, that sort of stuff. So hopefully, when they talk about eligible businesses, hopefully that means that that eligibility is still fairly loose and we can get lots of people into that program. Their other announcement was around the business credit availability. And obviously, when companies are still operating, they do need access to sufficient operating capital to cover off their operating expenses, even if they're not technically in business full time, or maybe they're pursuing other opportunities and trying to pivot fairly quickly. So what the federal government has done is actually put through, and I don't have all the numbers because they added to it this morning, but they're Crown corporations, Business Development Bank of Canada, Farm Credit Canada, Export Development Canada, all of them have different packages that they have available to assist different types of businesses in their ongoing business operations. So I know BDC has some loans that you can apply for over and under $100,000. At first that lending program was like 48-hour turnover, but of course, as you can imagine, fairly oversubscribed. So it's going to take some time, but that's available. And the one announcement that I thought was actually pretty cool this morning was also the availability through your bank. I would assume that it's the federal financial institutions, a $40,000 government guaranteed loan, which takes away a lot of the risk for our financial institutions. Interest free for 1 year. That's pretty unheard of, so yay, but it's really close to prime, so that's good. And then $10,000 of that could be forgivable. And the only question that I have, and as it becomes more knowledgeable, hopefully we'll make sure we share that to everybody, is what is a qualifying business? So once that information is there, I think we're going to see a lot of uptake. $40,000 interest-free with a possibility for getting $10,000 forgiven, and the interest goes up after that first year, can be a make or break for a lot of businesses. $40K isn't a lot, but it can keep your doors open and your lights and your gas on, or at least take some of that pressure off until you can get back operational. And finally, the CRA, our favorite organization. They've actually extended the filing for income tax to June and payment of owing income tax to September. And obviously that changes a little bit in terms of your corporate year end and that kind of stuff, but this does allow you to defer some of those expenses. So if there was an owing, that you can use that money to help you with keeping your business going. And related to that is a deferral of GST, HST, and duties. Anything that you were owing on that, those won't be due until June. And I would assume that they would continue to review that depending on the time frame. I'm hearing a lot of different time frames and no one wants to commit. I had a medical professional on talking earlier on TV, and she was talking about she was hoping that we actually had started to really see the curve coming down. Who knows? But if we're looking at 6 months, then we have to be thinking 6 months down the road. And I think if we think, worst case scenario, 6 months, that'll help us a lot. On the private side of things, where I've been encouraging my clients to really work with is their financial institutions. So all of the stuff that came down through the feds kind of trickles down, and the things that came down through the province trickles down as well. But when we think about our larger lenders, and many of us have loans and mortgages and lines of credit and that stuff for our businesses and personal, again, not a blanket solution, but they are offering deferrals up to 6 months. Again, sit down with a banker, talk to someone. Many of the banks have allowed us now, there's an electronic form that you can fill out to kind of say, this is what I'm requesting, and then they get in touch with you. So at least you're not waiting on hold for hours and hours and hours trying to get in touch with someone. As you can imagine, and as most of you have probably experienced, this is a fairly busy system, but they'll get there. And I think things are starting to settle a little bit, so they're getting a bit more clear on their criteria, and hopefully there'll be some more consistency across the board, because I think everybody was just kind of flying by their seat of the pants for a bit, going, I don't know what that actually means, but let's at least start the process. So I heard from clients who were a little bit frustrated, and really just saying, hey, try to be as welcoming and as open to this and as patient, because the only thing we actually have control over at this point is how we react to stuff. So talk with your lenders. Obviously, that's how you're going to be accessing the $40,000 government-backed loans. So those will be best friends for a little while. I have really encouraged my clients to talk to their landlords. And for those of you who own businesses, then you're also talking to your lender, or own buildings or whatever. You're probably talking to your lenders about deferring mortgages and that sort of stuff. In a perfect world, we're hoping that that will have a trickle-down effect to people who are leasing, so that the savings on the deferred mortgages can also be maybe some savings or deferral of rent, or even some of the waiving of the base rent or something like that. I'm hearing mixed results on that, but I think as we get more and more settled into this situation, I think we're going to realize this is a team effort. We're all going to have to come up with some sacrifice and try to come up with a compromise to make this all work. So at the end of the day, we want all of those spaces to be full after all this crisis has passed. So I think the most important thing moving forward, no matter what programs are available to you, is communication, constant communication. Talking with your insurance organizations. Many of you have probably, I know you've all done this. Some people have really good coverage that might give you business interruption. What I'm hearing is that's not as likely as we would hope. So trying to figure out, if you've closed your business, how often do you have to go and make sure the premises are secure, that sort of stuff, because that is a condition of your insurance policy. So those are all things to consider. For those of you who have been working with staff and maybe you're struggling a little bit because you are the chief cook, bottle washer, you do the HR, I would really seriously recommend talking with an HR professional to help you if you're looking at layoffs, if you're looking at what your employment contracts and employment obligations are, and also, as we come out of this, how to make sure that we get them and we retain them, and how we bring them back into our workplace. So that's important. And then there's other organizations like the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, Better Business Bureaus. If you're part of specific associations in terms of your own industry, connecting with them, because they have real live real-time information that they can provide to you from the associations. Or they can also act on behalf of you as an advocate if you have a specific need, or if there's many of you who do. Many voices are louder than one. Yeah, so I know there's probably more out there, but that's it in a nutshell. Easy peasy.
Nice summary. Thanks, Holly. I know I see Jason from the Alberta Chambers of Commerce here on the call, and the Alberta Chambers has been very quick to respond to some of the concerns that they've seen on social media. I know from some of the local business people. I think one of the big concerns early on was the smaller the business, the smallest ones, or the sole entrepreneurs, are they eligible for some of the supports? And I know there may still be a lot of questions about that, and are we still kind of in that gray area as to how we're looking at that? I'll throw that to you, Holly.
I think until we actually see the application process and the application come out, yeah, I think when we see the application, we'll have a good idea, better understanding. Again, I'm hoping that most of the guidelines and qualifications will be fairly vague, but until we see that, I think it's going to be hard for us to gather. I will say some of the best advice that I can give you, if you are wanting to access any of these programs through the government, either level, make sure that you have your I think it's My Service Alberta or My Alberta ID ready. So go, and for us as entrepreneurs, we always feel like I want to feel like I'm doing something, anything to make me feel like I'm moving forward. So these are things that you can do. Register for the My Alberta, register for My CRA and My Service Canada, because my understanding is most of these benefits will come through those portals because they already exist. So, and I will say the My CRA and My Service Canada are not instantaneous. I've been working on them myself. And so you apply for them, and then they mail you a secure code that you have to go to the post office to pick up. And then you actually can get the whole site actually registered. So it can take up to 10 days for you to actually get that code and get it all set up. So if you do it now, hopefully you'll be ready for when these come through and you can be applying through those different portals.
So businesses are trying to adapt as quickly as they possibly can. And there are some good news stories out there, some encouraging stories of businesses that have been doing some pivoting and collaborating. Maybe we can just touch on maybe a couple of examples that you've seen and maybe stimulate some ideas in other people's minds.
Totally. And I bet if you're on the call today, you're very invested right now in thinking creatively. The one thing that I think our region is going to really benefit from is the fact that we're so innovative by nature. So that's a good thing. But it's been really interesting to watch different sectors and how they've been pivoting or how they've seen opportunity in being able to serve a community need. So I'm going to start out with a kind of a cool example is the two distilleries in town, Latitude 55 and Broken Oak, been all over the media. They are partnering and doing hand sanitizer. Yay, like awesome. And then we can have blood orange vodka too, so yay. I've seen a lot of retailers who have storefronts, and obviously with the physical distancing, we're being asked to not visit as much. So we see these retailers who are being very innovative. Even if they didn't have e-stores, they're starting to put e-stores together. They might be doing live sales. I've seen a couple retailers doing that. So it's like having a personal shopper who's like modeling stuff for you, and you can just order it, pull up outside the business, and they like deliver it to your window. I think it's going to be really hard for us all to go back to like, oh, you want me to go in the store? But can't you just show me online and I can just easy button this? But it's pretty cool to see. I've been seeing some of our media outlets offering gift cards, and some of their advertisers have gift cards at half price. So people are like, oh, these are things I buy anyway, so I'm just going to buy those. I've seen businesses, some of the support Facebook pages, if you're not part of one, find one. They're just so much information, so much support, and how they're supporting one another by buying services from one another, and that sort of stuff. We had an upsurge in delivery. So a lot of businesses are learning how they can do that and really maintain a quality service. I just wish they'd stop putting all these food pictures on Facebook because it makes me really hungry and they don't deliver to my house way out in the country. But yeah, I think it's just, thank goodness for the fact that we have this technology to assist us in connecting with others in a different way, in the way that we sell. And so I watch these businesses supporting one another just in terms of how the messaging, and a lot of businesses, they've been sharing things for free just to ensure that they're engaging with their clients and keeping their customers connected to them. And I think we're going to build, it's interesting because we're not having these personal connections, but we're building stronger bonds with our customers, because what else do we have to do other than connect to them and share with them things about our lives? And it's going to be really hard for us as customers not to want to go back to those businesses if we feel that they have somehow empathized with us and provided us with something that we needed during this time. So it's been really neat actually watching businesses change and evolve so quickly. But the cool thing is that's what entrepreneurs are bred for. You guys change the direction of your ship regularly because you can be really agile and you recognize opportunities in the market. And even for some of the businesses, I talked with one this morning who's fairly digital around logistics. And he's like, I don't want anybody to feel like I'm trying to take advantage. And I'm like, well, no, entrepreneurs aren't taking advantage. You are recognizing there's an opportunity, there's a gap, and you're pivoting to actually serve that gap. And moving forward, that's going to really help you to be ahead of that curve moving on. So I think the adoption of technology and the digital economy came way fast. And I don't think we're probably going to take away from that. And most of us, even those of us who are introverts, probably miss people a little bit. But it's amazing how efficient we can be when we're meeting electronically, where a meeting that would be 6 hours in person, we're finishing that agenda in 2 hours and we're like, oh, happy hour. So I think just that adoption of technology and how fast we have, learned the curve. I think I shared on our Facebook page, Zoom for Dummies, or how do you Zoom? And I had like 100 and some people connect to that. And I think that's pretty cool. Thankfully, we have this and we can actually connect and share good stories. And I think that that's really important moving forward.
Well, and it's nice when, you know, Chad and Serbia and Croatia are constantly checking in and seeing how we're doing and phoning us in the
I know,
middle
I
of
think they've called 4
webinars. And
times this morning. Yeah.
yeah, it's really nice of them to do that. Um, just before we get into the Q&A, do you have any other, maybe just some advice or tidbits? Or, I mean, we don't have the answer. This is an unprecedented situation we're in, and there's no way we can go back and find a book and say, oh, this is what we can do. Do you have any other, maybe some ways that people can, you know, get some ideas from you, and maybe just some something to keep them going?
Totally. So first and foremost, as much as we're not people who ask for help, number one, we like to do it ourselves. We're Albertan and it's how we do it. We bootstrap everything. But it's important to connect, to liaise, to network, to connect to other individuals, not to kind of wallow in doubt or self-pity, because that's not usually what it happens. It's just about realizing we actually are all in this together, and that there is support out there, and no one's going to judge you for that. So connecting with the chamber and your municipalities and even your MLAs and your MPs, just to, you know, connect with them. If you have ideas, quite honestly, we're trying to figure this out and they're trying to figure it out. So if there's something really innovative that we could be putting in place, I'm totally open to that, and I'm open to passing that message on to someone who has maybe a louder voice than I do. But I think really at the end of the day, especially for solopreneurs and people who work very much in isolation and have the tendency to be very isolated as business owners, my worry and concern is for our mental wellness, and making sure that as we come out of this, we're as strong as we were going in or stronger. And I think we're going to have to really focus on how we care for ourselves, both mentally and physically. And I read a couple different articles about what we're feeling right now, and that they're likening it very much to grief. And when you think about all of the different stages of grief, there's a lot of stuff that we're going through and really don't have the ability to just reach out and do stuff. So if you're feeling those things, I think it's really important to understand that you have supports, especially if you have an employer, you have a benefits program. There's probably an EAP program that can connect you with counselors and assistants and that sort of stuff. I know there's a lot of live virtual counseling that's available. The province launched the COVID-19 Hope text line. So you just have to text that to 393939. And you get different messages every day to help you with your mental health and mental wellness. But I think it's just important to realize that you're not the only one going through these things, and there's someone else out there who feels very much like you, and it's okay to kind of be a little bit vulnerable. So find those people that you trust, connect to them, allow them to kind of be, your day might be meh, their day might have been better. So, you know, have those connections. If you have staff that are working from home and you're working from home, it's important to connect with them and make sure they're okay as well. And they can buoy you up as well. So I'll speak about my own example. We connect on WhatsApp every morning because it's the platform that just worked. It was easy. Connect every morning, connect every evening. And then yesterday we did a virtual happy hour and it was really nice. It was like we were all in the room, we laughed a lot, and it was a really great way to kind of close the evening. And hopefully everybody felt that there was real value to that, because we can get very isolated very quickly. If you have a dog, go for a walk with the dog. My dog thinks because I'm home, we should probably just be outside 24/7. But find joy and find happiness and connectivity in things that make you feel good. And I think we have to just continue that as we get through this, because we will get very bogged down with the day-to-day things. And I think it's important that we actually can't be successful as entrepreneurs moving forward if we're not strong ourselves. So that would be my best advice, is take care of yourself and then take care of the people around you and make sure that you connect with them regularly.
A friend of mine, Christina, is on the call here, and she does a joyful podcast. And if you need a little bit of uplifting, I would suggest you look up some of those episodes. And she is just tremendous into providing a little bit of joy into this world, and we appreciate her being on the call. Okay, so we want to just sort of touch on a little bit about the Love Local GP campaign that we have going on Facebook. Again, thanks to the Business Resiliency Task Force with the county and the city, all contributing along with the chamber. If you haven't yet, maybe just check it out. It's a way of supporting local business. If you are interacting with business, tag them, give them a shout out, and you know, we could you could be eligible to win a chamber check and be able to take that money and go spend it at a chamber member in one way or another. And we're just trying. We're trying a little bit of everything to try and keep businesses going. We get it. We see it every day. We hear from you every day, and you know, through good and bad, we're in it together. So let's open it up to some questions or even some comments. I know we have representatives from government at all levels. We have representatives from provincial organizations. So if you have things that you'd like to share or anything like that, we can open that up to you now.
Everybody's so quiet.
Yeah, nobody wants to be first.
If anybody would like to ask a question, please make a note in the chat box so that I can unmute you one by one so we're not overwhelmed with noise, please.
Okay, we have, you see that one, Hetty? From BD Betty.
Hi, Holly is my business coach and banker through Community Futures. And without her support, I think I would have lost my marbles through this whole thing. So I want to really thank her. But something else that has really been helping me, and something that I would love to see maybe us do as a community, is to do something called Love Your Essential, or Appreciate Your Essential Worker Day. We have a lot of essential workers that don't get recognized, like truck drivers, garbage people, our posties. And it's just something as simple as putting a heart in your window that says, thank you, garbage man. Thank you, postal worker. Thank you, grocery clerk. Maybe buy a bag of single wrapped lifesavers. Do what I did the other day. I put a bunch in a baggie and put them in my mailbox for my postal worker with a little note that just let her know that I appreciate her still bringing me my mail. I'm just thinking that if we did something like that, it could really help, because then we could run it like a bit of a contest, and maybe all of these businesses who have essential workers could put something out there that they have a bunch of people that could definitely use a little bit of a lift. And maybe a bunch of us little businesses get together and put together a package like what I did the other day. I had Gez from Turbo Delivery take 8 dozen donuts. 4 went to the hospital. 1 dozen went to the RCMP station, and 1 dozen went to each fire hall. Little things, but if we work, we can support each other as little business people. I've talked to Today FM about this kind of an idea. Maybe we could figure out a way to help market and pick a day a month, and let's just make this an ongoing thing. Because I don't know how many of you people realize, without those semi-drivers, without those garbage trucks, we just don't stand a chance at staying healthy and clean. And there's so much that we need to be grateful for. And I think a day of thanks once a month for essential workers would be something real good for us to all do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We do have a reminder about an AHS recommendation about food not being sent to the hospitals, no longer allowed to accept any outside food, but there are other ways to support essential and I don't know if there even is such a thing as non-essential anymore. I mean, we need everybody. We need everybody to keep the economy going, and I don't even like that term non-essential workers. I mean, to me, everyone is essential, and everyone in this region is essential. And so let's keep everyone in our thoughts and minds as we go through this. We have a comment from Joanne. Holly, with many of us having to learn to Zoom, but what was the link for Zoom for Dummies to share with members? Sounds like a great approach to help others out that are not familiar with this online meeting place. Thanks and great job all by doing this.
Okay, I can get that. I know it was just a share on our Facebook page, but yeah, I think it just kind of took you through and how to use it. So I'll get that to the chamber so we can get it out, or get it to Hetty and we can get it out.
Yeah, I know there are a number of different platforms, whether it's Microsoft Teams or there was another one that was on this morning through the Canadian Chamber Executive. And so there are a number of different platforms. Try and find one that works for you if you are trying to stay connected with others. And a little bit is trial and error, and I know we've tried a couple that haven't worked as well as others. So but this is a good one, and we will try and get that information out there to people. Let's see. Yes, this is being recorded, and we will be putting it up for viewing and or being able to email it to participants who aren't able to join us. Maybe if there are some folks out there that have some topics that we haven't touched on that maybe you'd like to just even suggest for the future, you can feel free to leave those in the chat as well. Anyone else with a question or a comment?
Are we allowed to jump in this way or just
Certainly. Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, Larry here from La Crete Chamber, way up in the far north.
Good to see you again.
Thanks. We've got something that I've done. I've Chamber Professionals page on Facebook. If you're not part of that, Frank Kenny, it's a really good resource. There's other paid things I think you can do beyond that Frank does. But one tip that I got out of there is to take the opportunity if your office is slower. I know there's so many other things that we could be doing in live and communicating with our businesses. But if you do have a few minutes, man, those businesses have appreciated the one-on-one and communicating and connecting with them, hearing from them, and then getting tips back. And then I created an email blast to our members, just a request, how can we do something simple online to do a shop local? And again, out of the Chamber Pros, create a local shop local, give back to your businesses. They've supported so many things in our community, and I put that in my own little word bubble Facebook cover, and I created a page, and I don't know when it's going to start snowballing or pick up. I've invited a bunch of people. I'm sharing whatever I see on their pages, and they're coming back and liking and hearting that and liking that page. So hopefully it's going to start reaching customers for them. And again, yeah, like Country Corner Furniture, for one example, I've gone back there twice because they're just so innovative. Almost nobody in the store when I go there. It's almost unheard of, you know, some of these businesses with no foot traffic. But it's incredible to see that this community is taking this seriously, and it's just neat to see how people are meeting the challenges. They're doing I've shared it on that Shop Local Facebook page. You can FaceTime in, or just they'll take a picture for you and text it to you. They're having a 35% off store-wide, at least on furniture. I don't want to say everything, but store-wide sale. You know, they're doing anything they can. Curbside pickup, free delivery. There's so many other things that are flying through my head, but it's great to connect like this. I think I'm going to learn to Zoom, and it's out of my comfort zone to lead one of these, but I'll probably be doing it in the next few days, and definitely pass out that Zoom for Dummies in case other businesses want to connect. I'm also wondering how have business, I know Grande Prairie is a lot bigger than us, but I'm wondering, I phoned your office, they said you've always had this connection with the county. To pull together a task force this quickly may be easier for the larger ones, but how would a smaller chamber reach out? And I mean, I guess that's it, just reach out and do it. I've reached out once already and I'm getting nothing back. We had the fire thing 9 months ago, and we were just, doggy paddling in the background, sharing posts and things like that. I really think the chamber and maybe other organizations should be a part of this. Meetings with our MLA, the county, just that the businesses know that we can form a task force and work with them. We're supporting the businesses. We're there for them. And, it's not a seat at the table. I don't care if my board goes and I don't ever hear anything, frontline, but I want to support. And it's just hard sitting back and just trying to figure this out on your own. So,
well, I think that we do not, definitely, thanks for all that, Larry, really appreciate that. We do not take for granted our relationship we have with the different levels of government, the municipal level, provincial level, and federal level. Reach out to, we have very supportive MLAs and of course our MP, and but our relationship with the city and the county and the municipal district of Greenview, and then the smaller communities around. And then it's our relationship with the other chambers and what they're seeing out there. I think if I had anything to say is that just keep pounding on them, saying, we are trying to be the voice of business, and business goes hand in hand with government, and so don't give up, Larry. Keep pushing, and it's you can build those relationships and through good times and bad. A couple of other comments here from our friend Cami Curry of businesses are waiting for the essential services list from the government of Alberta. It is coming. She said not fast enough, I'm sure, but very soon. Here's one. As a business owner with everything up in the air and shutting our doors and laying off employees today effective March 31st, do we make records of employments for everyone and have them apply for either the CERB or EI for the 31st? Or do I hold off and see what changes the federal government makes? Anyone want to tackle that one?
Well, I can, but I know there's an HR person on the call too. But so I'll kind of give my 2 cents. And this is, I've heard this from actually four businesses since about 10 o'clock asking the same question. And if I could look in the crystal ball, I could tell you exactly what to do here. The announcement coming, hopefully they'll have some more details around that wage subsidy, because that might actually be, it depends on probably the pay scale of the individual that you're working with as well, because the CRB could actually end up being a little more than what someone would get on EI. But they're not, if you're EI eligible as EI. This subsidy could actually, if you're looking at a 75% wage subsidy, what your employee would get per month would probably be higher if they're in a higher tax bracket. So I guess my advice would be to wait and see what those guidelines are coming out in Monday, and then make the right decision for each employee separately. But that's just me instinctually. And I would actually ask Jennifer Casely, I know you're on the call, if you have some insight to that as well.
Yeah, thanks, Holly. I was actually messaging with that person. It is a call that each business is going to need to make. And I think my suggestion is similar to yours. If you can hold off a few more days and find out exactly what that program looks like, then consider holding off. If your business cannot hold off any longer, do the temporary layoff and do the ROE effective today, the day or whatever day you do the layoff, and then bring them back, right, as soon as possible. And some people are actually looking for a layoff right now. Some people would prefer a temporary layoff, and that's because they don't have childcare options or there's some other issues going on. So talk to your staff, see what works best for them. And if you do have the ability to keep them going for a few more days, I think you might find out that this program will actually benefit them more than EI, because EI hops out quite quickly for a lot of Albertans.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Perfect. Thank you.
One other comment here about group benefits carriers. They are coming out with plenty of information on how to deal with layoffs and employees on temporary leave. Be sure to talk to your broker about the options that your benefits carrier is offering. So again, it's about communication right now. It's about talking each other's ears off. And if you don't know, and if you have questions, keep trying to find someone that potentially can give you answers. We weren't going to pretend that we had all the answers in this webinar, but we wanted to get the conversation starting. We wanted to let people know that there is a group that is trying to listen, trying to take their concerns and trying to help. We need you. We need you to keep going, and we're going to try and get you through this. We're all in it together. So we've got a couple more minutes if there are any more comments or questions. If anyone would like to share what they're seeing, we will let you do so.
Something that I would recommend for businesses to support other businesses, and other people have alluded to this as well, is if you have the ability to buy gift cards now from some of these businesses, that's a great way to help them get some cash flow. If you have the ability to buy gift cards from the Downtown Association, that's a good call as well. It connects with all of our downtown businesses, which have been really hit hard in terms of the physical distancing side of things. A lot of companies, I said, were pivoting to that online sales. So again, if you have the opportunity, go on and see where you can purchase items that you would normally get anyways, and buy them now through online sales. It's just a way of being able to do that. If you don't have a lot of finances on hand, you don't know, and you're a little bit uncertain, take the opportunity to do testimonials, do Google reviews for these businesses, because they're invaluable to them, as they, first of all, it helps you feel good about your business, and secondly, it's really good for them in terms of positioning and on social media, Google, and that sort of stuff.
Another one I saw was if you had
as well.
Yeah, if you had something that was scheduled that is canceled, rather than just taking the refund, maybe taking a rain check and taking a credit and using it. Yep. Using it when when things get back to some sense of normalcy again. There is on our website we have a survey put out by Economic Development Alberta. We do encourage people to take that brief survey to really give the province an idea of what's going on, and it's pretty easy to do, and just go in. Again, it's on our website on our business resiliency page, and we will be able to forward that information or get some of that information from EDA, and it'll give us a better idea of what's happening in our region and as far as businesses are concerned. Jennifer does have a webinar on April 1st on helping employees through COVID-19, how to keep employees engaged and how to get them back to work after this. So maybe just make a note of that on April 1st. Thank you again to Jennifer for contributing today. I think that's about it for now.
Wendy has
We
a
want to,
question.
pardon me?
Wendy has a question. Go ahead, Wendy.
Oh, sorry, Wendy, go ahead.
It's not a question, it's a comment, and it alludes to our city center, but I'm also inviting other towns that are on this webinar to maybe potentially think about what we're doing. So these gift cards that you were talking about, it is not just retail gift cards that you're looking at, for instance, accounting services. If you need to pay your accountant, it can go to professional services, it can go to restaurants, it can go to health and wellness services, massages, chiropractors. We need to really remember to think outside the box and include retail, but also be inclusive with all the other businesses, whether it's our city center here in Grande Prairie or Sexsmith or, Beaver Lodge.
Right on. Thank you, Wendy. I know you're seeing a lot from your
Awesome.
members with the Downtown Association, and we appreciate what the association does for all those businesses, and it's such a big part of this community, and thank you for looking out for those businesses. We'll wrap this up for now, and again, we're going to ask you to send us some ideas for future topics, and we'll try and find some people that like Holly are so knowledgeable and so willing to share their information with us, and just try and keep this conversation going. Go on Facebook, love local GP. We all love local GP, and we're going to get through this, folks. So thank you to everyone for being on this call. It will be recorded and be able to share it with those that weren't able to join us. And hopefully we will talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Take care.